Hi, Salwe. We're going to be continuing our study of the Latin noun in this session, and what I propose to do is look at all of the cases of the noun in each declension. So here's our prop, and we're going to have first, second, third, fourth, fifth declension, right? Prima, seconda, tertia, quarta, and quinta. In prima, in seconda, in tertia, in quarta, in quinta. Because declension in Latin is a feminine word, so it's prima, seconda, tertia, quarta, quinta. So the first declension, we're going to have an example, a paradigm as it's called, an example word. So the example we're going to have here is rosa, a rose, ending in a, rosa, for the first, in the nominative, in nominativo, rosa. Notice it's not rosa, but rosa, and the S before a vowel in Latin remains as an S, rosa. Whereas an English person would be tempted to say rosa. Rosa, rosa. Oculus, an eye, oculus. Arbor, a tree, ending in r, arbor. Fructus, fruit. And dies, a day. Dies is a very common word, just as res, a thing, is a very common word. Two extremely common words are here in the fifth declension. Dies and res. Dies, a day, res, a thing. Fructus, quite a common word, fruit, fructus. Arbor, pretty common word as well, tree, arbor. Oculus, reasonably common, an eye, oculus. Rosa, perhaps not so common, rosa. The genitive of these. Now remember, we've learned already that the first declension genitive is an I. That's A-E. I. It's a diphthong. Two vowels come in together to make a different sound. I. So rosa, rossai. I. Here the genitive is E. That's the letter I in English. So oculus, oculi. Oculi, of an eye. Rossai, of a rose. Oculi, of an eye. Arbor, arboris. Arboris, ending in is. Arboris. So it's I, E, is. Here the ending is us. So fructus, fructus. Fructus, fructus. And here, dies, the ending is a. Die, die. So just like it would be res and rei, it's dies and die. Fructus, fructus, just like we saw before. Domus and domus. Arbor, arboris, just like vestis, vestis, which we had before. Oculus, oculi, just like dominus, domini, which we had before. And rossa, rossai, just like aqua, aquae, or campora, camporai. I, E, is, us, hey. Now we're going to look at our datives. And they're all going to be here. The dative, the giving case. So to whatever it is. So rossai in the genitive, rossai in the dative. So rossa, rossai, rossai. Oculus, oculi. Go down to the dative, and it is Oculo, oculo. To an eye. Oculo. Oculi, of an eye. Oculo, to an eye. Here we have arbor, arboris, arbori, arbori, to a tree, arbori. So we have rossai, we have oculo, and we have arbori. Fructus becomes fructui, and dies becomes diei. So these three follow a very similar pattern. Arbor, arbori, fructus, fructui, dies, diei. But oculus, oculo, and rossa, rossai. So our endings are I and O and E and ui and A. And these three are extremely similar. E, ui, and A. So rossai, oculo, arbori, fructui, and diei. Now we're going to move to the next case, which is the accusative case, which we don't translate in English as being different. We just mark it as the verb acting on the thing. So we're going to pretend I see whatever it is, and it's going to be here. So rossa in the nominative, rossam, rossa, rossam. Oculus here in the nominative, oculus, oculum, oculus, oculum. Arbor, arborem, arbor, arborem. Fructus, fructum, dies, diem. So we run through them. Rossam in the first, rossam, oculum, arborem, fructum, and diem. So they have a lot of similarity, right? They're all ending in that nasalized vowel. So rossam, oculum, arborem, fructum, diem. That M on the end isn't actually pronounced clearly as an M. It rather was a sign that the final vowel of the word was heavily nasalized. So rossam, and when that M is followed by another vowel, what happens is it all gets mixed up together. And in poetry, it's like this sort of M sort of disappears, or the vowel from the next word disappears. So if it was going to be, say, rossam followed by oculum, just say we're going to put those two words one after the other, we would say rossoculum, and there would be an elision, a sliding together of the two words, because the vowel essentially is being followed by another vowel, but the first vowel is nasalized. Rossam, rossam, oculum, arborem, fructum, diem. So em, em, em. A nice pattern. Not so hard to remember. The ablative, rossa, 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 short R on the end. Ablative, rossa. Oculus, oculo, oculus, oculo, arbor, arbore, arbor, arbore, fructus, fructu, fructus, fructu, dies, die, dies, die. So we run through these. It's a for the first, o for the second, e for the third, u for the fourth, and e once again for the fifth. So a, o, and then it's e, u, e. And the vocatives, of course, are all going to be the same except for the second declension that ends in us, so oculus, ocule, if you're going to talk to an I. Right? Oculus, ocule. Otherwise, the nominative and the vocative are the casus recti, the straight cases, and there's no change. Only here is there any flexion or bending of the cases. So what we are doing is we are inflecting, bending in, inflecting the noun, and we're inflecting it through its cases and through the 5 declensions. So that's the singular of the Latin noun. It's simply a matter of getting used to it and remembering them while you're touching your fingers so that you associate the endings with the location on your hand, and so you associate the endings with a particular tactile sensation. And when you learn a new word, it's not a bad habit to touch the finger of the declension that word's in, so that you associate the declension with a physical feeling in your body as well as in your brain. It's a similar reason to why people, they've done some experiments of retention of students who write things out by hand, or write the same material out on a computer with a keyboard and then test the students afterwards. The students that write out by hand, there's a significant difference in the test results, and though it's not absolutely certain what's going on, certainly when you do MRI scans or whatever they do, these sort of brain scans that you can do now in relatively real time while someone's typing on the screen or while someone's writing, there are more areas of the brain involved when you are writing, when you're engaged, when you're touching as well, than if you're just typing on the screen. And of course this helps with recall. The more parts that your brain can access when you're trying to recall information, the better. That's why I think it's extremely important, even though Latin's basically a dead language, and it'll stay dead. It's been dead, functionally dead, since the rise of nationalism and the individual nation states promoted their own languages and the universality of Latin disappeared. So it's, although there are still people speaking it, it's functionally a dead language. It's still useful when you're learning to try to speak, even if you speak badly, and quite frankly it doesn't matter if you speak terribly because, as I said, the language is functionally dead. The whole idea of trying to speak the language is simply just to engage your brain. And the reading of it out loud if you can, and listening to it. Now the issue with Latin that makes it hard to read a text for a beginner if it's not marked with vowel lengths, and even if it is marked with vowel lengths, you still have to learn the regulations for where to put the accent, is that there is a reasonably complex system for English people anyway, of accenting the Latin words, and then you have this whole problem of long and short vowels. And the standard printed editions don't tell you what vowels are long and what vowels are short. The Romans knew what was long and what was short because the words had particular sounds to them, and they just knew that that's how the word was sounded. It had a long vowel, and that's what you heard. And we know the Romans were pretty good at this because when they were writing poetry, they didn't get their quantities, as we call them, the quantities of the syllables, they didn't get them mucked up. And so they had quite a good ear. Certainly those living in Rome and sort of in the sort of wealthy areas who were educated properly, and those who were educated properly throughout the empire or the late republic. So, as I sort of say, fire on all cylinders if you can. Read, write, and listen, and try to speak. And as Comenius said, writing in the mid-1600s, it doesn't matter. Beginning speakers are going to be more those who talk nonsense. He uses the word balbutire, to sort of babble rather than to really speak, but the speaking will come. Don't despair. I mean, it's not that hard to get to grips with the cases of the Latin noun. And as Underwood said, the secret is much reading. Someone who reads a lot will know that arbor becomes arboris, and will know that caput becomes capitis, and that regina becomes reginae. Those things will just become automatic. And it might be that after you've done an enormous amount of reading that you won't be able to immediately produce the declension chart. But that's not the point. The point is that you are able to recognize the forms, not necessarily generate them. But you need to be able to recognize them while you are reading. Anyway, that's enough for now. Voila, and I hope you enjoyed the lesson. It was sort of quite a full lesson, going through all of the material all at once like that. We will be going over it again with the individual declensions as well. And there'll be a lot of practice as we go through. And also what I intend to do as we're going through material is to do regular parsing of the material, to think about what the words are doing grammatically in the sentences as we learn them. But not too much of that, because that becomes a bit tedious. Voila.